At Pope Air Force Base receives one of the military's highest honors.
Steve Daniels joins us now with details on that, Steve.
Larry and Tisha, this is the stuff movies are made of. Staff Sergeant Zachary Rhyner's unit was ambushed in Afghanistan while they were climbing up a cliff. Despite being shot in the leg and taking enemy fire for nearly 6 hours, the Air Force combat controller managed to direct friendly fire onto enemy targets. Rhyner is now credited with saving lives. Gilbert Bays has the story of a true American hero.
The Air Force Cross. It's an honor only 191 Americans have ever received. Meet Staff Sergeant Zachary Rhyner. He's an Air Force combat controller, and he's number 192.
Basically, a combat controller's job is to talk to aircraft via radios, whether it's a man-pack radio on your back or a smaller inter-team radio. And our job is to coordinate with aircraft to get bombs on target.
It was nearly a year ago when the Air Force says Rhyner did his job extremely well. Despite being shot in the leg, Rhyner managed to call in more than 50 attack runs on enemy targets hidden in the hills of Afghanistan. Some of them were dangerously close.
And it was, roughly 100 meters away from our position. And, that explosion went off. And you literally couldn't see like 2 inches in front of your face from the debris, and it sent boulders showering down on us. Like it was a pretty big explosion.
Today, in front of a packed hangar on base, the Chief of Staff and Secretary of the Air Force gave the Pope Airmen the Air Force Cross and the Purple Heart. But don't be too quick to call him a hero.
I'd say I'm not a hero. I'm able to walk away from that situation. The real heroes are obviously the guys that die on the battlefield. But I got the utmost respect to them. Or heroes like Sean Meadows, who lost both of his legs in an IED blast.
That's Sean Meadows in the black shirt having his picture taken with his buddy. The ceremony lasted less than an hour. Rhyner says what happened in Afghanistan is something he'll remember the rest of his life. At Pope Air Force Base, Gilbert Bay.
Now, here's your Pentagon Channel report.
Tuesday, Staff Sergeant Zachary Rhyner became the first airman to receive the Air Force Cross in more than 6 years. The combat controller received the award for his actions during a 6.5-hour-long battle with insurgents in the Shock Valley of Afghanistan last April. Secretary of the Air Force Michael Donnelly presented the award during a ceremony at Pope Air Force Base.
Sergeant Rhyner, your actions are now and forever woven into the rich fabric of service, integrity, and excellence that has connected generations of America's airmen since the very inception of air power.
Sergeant Rhyner is credited with keeping his team of U.S. and Afghan Special Forces soldiers from being overrun by calling in multiple airstrikes.
There are less than 200 airmen that have ever received the Air Force Cross, and today, Staff Sergeant Zach Rhyner joins that honored fraternity. This large group gathered to recognize one of the Air Force's best. Staff Sergeant Rhyner displayed heroic action in Afghanistan during an ambush on a Special Forces mission as a Joint Tactical Air Controller in April of 2008.
We had to get up to this village that was on top of a mountain, and we started climbing with the team. And as we were climbing, it trapped us on a 6-foot cliff when they initiated an ambush from 4 directions.
Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Norton Schwartz, said Sergeant Rhyner's actions that day in Afghanistan shows the determination and grit that represents the Air Force's warrior ethos.
The Special Forces soldiers live to tell the story today because of their courage, tenacity, and closely integrated teamwork, including the invaluable and selfless efforts of Zach Rhyner.
The Air Force Cross is reserved for those who demonstrate unparalleled valor in the face of insurmountable odds. Among the millions who have served, only 192 Air Force Crosses have been awarded.
The Air Force Cross is the highest decoration the Air Force can present to an airman. Service crosses are second only to the Medal of Honor in precedence.
It's a pretty humbling experience, especially considering the company I'm in, of the people who have been awarded it for this campaign, being John Chapman. It's a pretty heroic story that he has, and Senior Airman Jason Cunningham. It's extremely humbling for me to be, acknowledged like that.
Staff Sergeant Rhyner acknowledges that he wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for his team and for the F-15 crews that fateful day last April. Zach plans to continue his Air Force career and looks to re-enlist as soon as possible. Staff Sergeant Jason Armstrong, Pope Air Force Base, North Carolina.
On April 6, 2008, he helped save dozens of his Special Forces comrades during a 6.5-hour firefight in the mountains of Afghanistan. Sergeant Zachary Rhyner was shot in the leg during the first 15 minutes of the ambush, and he kept on fighting. Last week, he received the highest honor the Air Force can give, the Air Force Cross. He also got a Purple Heart. The Sergeant joins me now.
All right, basically, you know, my team, and along with several other ODAs, a Special Forces team, were inserted into a valley in Afghanistan. We were going after a high-value target, and he just happened to live in a village which was located on a mountaintop which happened to be above us from where we infilled. So we infiltrated via, you know, Chinook helicopters and Apache, UH-60 helicopters. And we started making our climb. I had F-15s overhead and H-64 attack helicopters that were providing close air support.
You know, those make an awful lot of noise. I mean, you weren't sneaking up on him.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
It was one of those things, you know, with the amount of guys that we were going in there with. You know, surprise was obviously like one of the goals in mind, but you know, once the
helicopters probably gave that away.
Exactly.
Yeah. It happens to me all the time. It's like, surprise! No, I heard the helicopter. Okay, so then what happened?
So from there, I talked to the F-15s that were above us, and you know, they were giving me route recce, telling me exactly how to get up to the village, and I was relaying that information to my Special Forces team leader, and we started making our climb up this terraced terrain, which went into the actual village and the building of the high-value target that we were going after. And we made it about 60 feet up on those terraces before, you know, we were caught in an ambush, pretty much a 360-degree ambush, all directions, and took multiple wounded, a couple critically within the first, you know, 15-20 minutes of the fight, myself included. I got shot, you know, in the leg.
When you got shot, did you at any point did you think, oh crap, I don't want to die here? I mean,
yeah, it wasn't really something that was running through my mind at the time. Like
good for you.
You know, as a combat controller, you know, extremely busy. I'm talking to, you know, multiple pilots overhead.
But at some point, you kind of ducked underneath some protection, and didn't you call in bombs that, like, right there?
Pretty much. You know, we grabbed the wounded guys where we were at, and pulled back as far as possible, and you know, we're kind of stuck on this mountaintop with a cliff on both sides, and we just brought in close air support, hitting, you know, various targets.
Were you afraid that you might get hit by the bombs?
It was a concern, just because you know, danger close for these weapon systems. Danger close meaning you are close. There's a risk of fratricide hitting friendly guys.
Yeah. That's one thing. That's the one thing. You know, the military talks in code all the time, but danger close, I think I kind of get. So you make this sound. I mean, you make it sound like, you know, it was just, you know, another day at the office. But there are only, what is it, 192 people that have ever received the Air Force Cross. That's pretty remarkable. There are only, since 9/11, there have, what, been 3? And you're the only one that has actually been able to wear it. You're the only one left alive to be able to get it.
Yes, sir.
What is that? How do you put that together in your head? I mean, you are in a very elite group.
You know, and that's the thing, like, you know, any other combat controller put in the same situation, you know, would have performed the same exact way. You know, credit that to the training we receive, you know, the process at which, you know, we go through to become a combat controller, and, you know, the constant training that we're doing, preparing for situations like that. You know, that's ultimately what, you know, anyone else would have done in the same situation.
It's a hard time believing that, because if that were true, there'd be a lot of crosses out there.
There's just, you know, maybe this was a situation where, you know, put in that situation and expected to perform, and I think anyone else would have done the same thing.
I thank you for your service, sir. Thank you very much, and thank you for defending our country and our